accuse me when I'm going to hang out with my family of running from you, you moronic piece of globalist socialist mother. All right, Scratch, what do you got?
What I got? Want to talk about Doge?
You got 10 minutes, whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah. I'm a little concerned about Doge right now. They seem to be a little bit incompetent, at least from my perspective. So, do you know what a IDV is?
I'm thinking IDF of something different that has to do with the military, but I'm guessing that's not what
No.
you're talking about.
No, it's an indefinite delivery vehicle. It's something in federal contracting. You can distribute like
IDF?
IDV,
Okay.
indefinite delivery vehicle.
I thought you said IDF, but I'm sorry.
No. But basically it allows you to put it's one big contract that allows you to put a bunch of smaller contracts under it, right?
Okay.
And so Doge has been consistently making these mistakes on the website when they're like estimating their savings and saying how much they've cut, where they take an IDV and say, oh, we cut like 3 contracts out of this IDV and we're counting the total potential amount of the IDV as the amount we saved, and they list it like 3 times, right? And
okay.
Little things like these, it's like, okay, you're obviously not familiar with federal contracting. You're obviously not like going in, you're not consulting the contracting officers, which makes me really concerned. I feel like if they were in good faith trying to cut these contracts, they would at least have professionals who are familiar with these systems do it. Because
so your argument is when Doge puts up, hey, we cut a contract today that saved $100 million. Probably it saved $30 million, and $70 million of that was because there were potential. This IDF meant that there were future contracts that were negotiated that could be part of that, but that hadn't been paid out yet or agreed upon, and therefore by claiming that it was $100 million instead of $30 million, they're over. Okay, then explain to me what you're saying.
So in the IDV, there's something called like a ceiling, or the IDV ceiling, right? And so that's the full potential amount that could be allocated through multiple different contracts, right? Now there's already multiple. So let's pretend there's like 10.
Yes, you're basically saying the same thing I said with some sort of nuanced difference. You only have 10 minutes, so I don't know why you'd want to make this semantic argument. I'll repeat and you see if you still want to disagree with me, that there are potential savings that haven't been divvied out yet, because this sort of contract would mean that there are further re-upping, and so it's sort of a ceiling on how much money could be given, but that's not the money that was already given or promised to be given. So for example, there could be like, let's say that they had one of these
canceled the entire IDV, but he's only canceling the individual contracts under the IDV, but he's still counting it, which means that he's only looking probably at the FDS website. And
so your argument is the IDV would say something like this: $100 million for cancer research. They cut out the $30 million contract that was specifically to the American Cancer Institute, but they left the $70 million that was for other institutes that were getting money for cancer, but are saying that it was for $100 million.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I don't. So then your harm is this proves they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah, that on top of they did this other basic things.
Yeah, I think you're oversimplifying it, and I think that most of the time what they're doing is they are canceling sort of the majority of that's going on with those. You can call them IDFs, which you can with these contracts that are going out. But let's say that everything you just said there is right. Yeah, I don't give a fuck if they're saving $30 million, but saying it's $100 million, I don't give a shit. It doesn't prove they're incompetent. Saving $30 million is good. Is that all you had?
I do. No, I do. Do you not think it's a sign? Like these are like very basic things. If you're just asking a contracting officer or going working for the agencies,
nope. I don't think it's a design. It could be intentional, that they're intentionally inflating these numbers because they want to sound better than they are. That doesn't show they're incompetent. It could be that there's more to it than what you're saying. For example, I saw Prime K's basically bring up the DOGE tracker. You could say they're malicious, just like you could see every administration ever says like, oh, we've done this with the economy, we've done the GDP. What? I'm sorry, what's that? So you're saying that Trump's team is doing what every other administration does that says that they're being better with budgets than is actually the case. That's your defense. And so you have a problem with DOGE because...
Wait. Can you give me another example where another administration where they've changed their numbers from like 16 billion to 8.9 billion in savings, like that drastically?
Yeah, like pretty much almost every job report that we saw under Joe Biden was revised downward later.
By how much?
Oftentimes it would be say things like we created 200,000 jobs and it turned out we lost like 50,000. So that would be
yeah, that's a little bit of difference when your numbers are half off. Like,
Right.
that's huge.
Right. We're
You're
talking
saying
about
like a
no,
you're
no,
saying
no,
like a
no.
BPA.
Did
Look
you
at
hear what I just said? Apparently you're not listening. Now I understand as someone who thinks that I would actually run from you as poor performance you've had every time you called in, that you wouldn't be able to comprehend what I just said. Let's say that they said we created 200,000 jobs, but not only did they not create 200,000, they actually lost 50,000. That's more than being off by half. You fucking idiot.
I do still think this is. I'll admit, past administrations have obviously made mistakes when things happen. I don't know. Did the bureau come out and actually say they made a mistake when that happened?
Yeah, they
I would ask.
revised them. I don't know that they used the term "we made a mistake," but they
But
revised them.
they
So is it a
revised them.
mistake or malicious? What other option would you have other than mistake or malicious?
It could have. It could be. It could be a mistake. It could be malicious.
Okay,
I would
what's the
say.
third option?
I would say they're probably being. It could have been that they were being incompetent. Could have been that their calculations are wrong. I don't
Okay,
know.
so then
But
your
I do know.
argument is
I do know. Wait. Give me a sec. I do know specifically basic things like not knowing what like indefinite delivery vehicle is and like mixing that up. Like these are very basic things.
Can
Like,
you show me? Can you show me? Can you show
me?
me DOGE saying we or Elon Musk saying we don't know what an indefinite delivery vehicle is? Can you show me that quote?
He didn't say it, but the fact
Okay,
that they
so
were
then
confusing it.
I could say the Biden administration didn't know what a job created was. They didn't know. That seems even worse. Do you think you'd be more incompetent if you don't know what an indefinite delivery vehicle is or a job created? Which one do you think would be a greater example of incompetence?
Obviously, it could have been that their calculation was off. That could have.
The calculation was off. So could it be that the calculation is off with DOGE? If I'm accepting what you're saying is true, which I'm not, you're probably full of shit.
Well,
You showed that you're bad faith.
I don't know, like what calculation
you
you do
do
because you're listing multiple contracts at the same time for the same ceiling. That would at that point saying you're thinking the actual contract is the IDV itself.
I think they might make arguments like we assume that the IDV by getting rid of this portion of it would also lead to getting rid of the other portions for it, and so we're totaling that it's the total, right? Because we think that inevitably by ending this contract, it will have the effect of ending the contracts for all this spending with all these things, and so we're saying that it leads to that, right? Or they're saying like, look, we have multiple people working on this, and so when we canceled one contract, they looked at it assuming that it would cancel all, but then it was doubled down because some other person did that as well. It's not that we don't understand what an IDV is. Similarly, that's probably what I think the job numbers were intentionally, all of these agencies intentionally were trying to cover for Joe Biden. But the argument that they would make is like, well, we were trying our best. We understand what a job created is. We just made some errors in our calculations, et cetera, et cetera. There was reporting that we accidentally checked twice, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You would have never, and I know you never went through and said, oh my God, this is either incredible incompetence of the Biden administration or it's fraudulent and they don't even know what jobs created are. I guarantee you never said that, which just shows, again, your criticism is, oh, they're overestimating how much money they saved us. They've probably only saved us about a third of what they're claiming to. Yeah, that's good to save a third.
Oh, so then, okay, so at worst, they don't actually know what happens when you cancel a contract.
Yes, that would be at worst.
That's what. So if they, once again, my original point, if they were just, hey, saying asking contracting officers and people that had experience in this field about this wouldn't have been a problem because they would have been able to clarify and actually calculate these numbers correctly.
I don't give a shit. Saving money is good. If your worst criticism here, you've just admitted that was the worst, is that they thought that they were saving 100 million when actually it was only 30 million because they didn't understand that when they saw these contracts, that it was other groups that were contracted to it and they were only getting rid of a third of the contracts as opposed to the whole value. Yeah, that's not a big deal. I'm still glad that they're canceling the contracts.
It's even more basic things like not looking at the dates at which contracts are complete, then canceling them and then posting it as actual savings. Like that would be something very basic.
I would say that's what's going on is people like you have routinely voted for what you know happens is that this massive spending is not sustainable. But for people like you that are Democrats, communists, whatever the fuck your anti-American bullshit is, you already admitted before in talks with us that you're globalists. You don't really give a shit about the United States as an individual country. You're actually happy that this money is spent for projects that are antithetical to what people like me that are nationalist populists want. And you're happy that it goes to kickbacks to a bunch of left-wing ideology that you would support. And so what happens is we could see that the politicians have done this shit for years, where they want the government to grow massively, which encourages more money to be created, more debt to be created, which actually harms the middle class and working class of this country. You support that, just like all these politicians. So when you actually have a politician, that comes in, it's like, yeah, we're going to rein in this spending because it's basically just a kickback vehicle for these Democrats and for these people that have all of these anti-right-wing crusades. We're going to actually eliminate that. And we're in such a catastrophic failure right now where we're paying like sort of at some point, some months, I think it was in February, it was like 60% of the money we brought in went to interest on the debt. It's reaching such crisis levels that they're trying to go as fast as possible to do this. And at some point, errors will be made and those errors can be corrected. And you're like, I have a problem with this because I think these errors are like, that's just like shows a lack of intelligence, when you didn't have a problem when the errors were even more egregious when it came to simple things like job reports with past administrations. To me, the fact that you care about one and not the other seems to show that the real problem you have isn't that errors are being made, but the problem is that you don't like the method. You don't like the goal of DOGE, where you did like the goal of the Biden administration.
Oh my gosh! Like obviously, like first of all, DOGE is absolutely wasting our taxpayer dollars, right? When DOGE goes out and says we're gonna cancel all consulting contracts in the VA, 875, they go and they start canceling them, terminating for the convenience, and it's like, holy shit, these are important contracts, like supply technicians, so that medical clinics can actually get supplies, which by the way I support. I don't think that's wasting our money in fraud or abuse. I don't think spending money so that firefighters from 9/11 can actually.
Why do you hate our children?
Rob, are you saying that? Wait, you're saying that I hate America because I don't want on contracts for supply technicians for the VA being canceled, because I don't want funding going to 9/11 firefighters. I'm anti-American for not wanting that canceled.
I'm saying that you don't. That's so disingenuous. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying, why do you want our children and our grandchildren to be in perpetual debt? Why do you want them to have all of our GDP to go to paying interest?
Well, stop changing the subject. No,
I'm not changing the subject. That's what you want. That's what you want.
No.
Yes, it is. That's what you want.
We can talk about my position on the
debt. No. That's what you want. Why do you want that?
I'll take this as a concession. We can move on.
No, why do you want that?
The fact is that when you cancel these contracts and we have to go back and reinstate 300 of them, because actually those are actually important, that is wasting my taxpayer dollars. If your incompetence is leading to massive mistakes, which means that we have to claw back contracts, that is a huge mistake. And that's not, I haven't even touched, I was talking on specifics. We can touch the fact they don't even take termination costs in factor for any of their calculations that are doing your savings. That's something very basic if you're trying to calculate how much you've actually saved. This is absolutely not the case. I just want 9/11 firefighters to be able to get fucking healthcare, and you're calling me fucking anti-American.
Okay, so
the only thing you can do is generalize.
So we give the 9/11 contractors their money back, and now you like DOGE.
They consistently keep doing the same thing.
You just made the specific point. All you want is the 9/11 contractors to have their money. We give that back, and now DOGE is a good thing, correct?
Well, and everything else I've said.
And everything else. So here's the point, and you could see, just so everyone listening understands, this is the game that'll constantly be played. You could, if you cut benefits to something, this is why they say, and by the way, I'm talking to a self-avowed socialist, but they don't really understand what socialism is, a self-avowed globalist, but they don't really know what globalist is. This is the game that they'll play. They'll say, you could vote yourself into socialism, but then you have to fight your way out, because they'll say, well, the government should give money. Don't you care about people that are starving? Don't you care about children being able to be educated? Don't you care about the firefighters being able to get money? And so what happens is they'll say, all we're saying is that we need to protect those things. But then every little thing that you try to cut, they'll say, no, you have to take your time. You have to do it very slowly. You have to go through all of these processes. All we're saying that's what you have to do. And we see the status quo of what happens when you adapt that mindset. What happens is the government massively, please, I let you go on your little spurtfizz. What you can see is that the government massively increases its size and expenditures, and a majority of this money isn't going to things that any person would objectively say is a good thing. The percentage of the debt that we're spending that's going to 9/11 firefighters is incredibly low. DOGE has admitted that the way you have to do this is you have to make radical, fast change. There will be mistakes that are made, and those things will get reinstated if proved that they're necessary and things that would be good. But if you say, no, we must take our time with everything, what happens is every little thing that you try to cut, you'll have people like Scratch here saying, actually, that's a very important thing. This person that you want to cut out, listen to why they're an important job. And they end up making that case in every specific perfect case. And then what happens is we're back to where we were at the status quo, which is that you never cut anything and that the government increases in size over and over, which is why I asked Scratch, if you're going to say, oh, why do you hate the 9/11 firefighters? Why do you think blah, 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 blah? My retort to that is, why do you hate the children? Why do you want them to be in perpetual debt? Can you tell me who you voted for that was trying to rein in the debt in a good way?
Once again, like that's not my position. The debt, I didn't.
No, wait. Oh, not only okay.
I didn't vote. I didn't vote the rein in the debt.
Can you forget even vote for?
That's not
forget
something.
Even,
a topic.
Right. Forget even who you're going to vote for. Can you name me one politician that you think's been publicly talking about reining in the debt the right way?
None.
Okay, so do you care personally about reining in the debt?
No.
Okay, so then my criticism stands. Why do you hate the children? Why do you hate the grandchildren? Why do you want to burden them with that debt?
Oh my gosh, you can't. This is what I mean. So our original subject is, okay, I want to talk about DOGE. I want to talk about why DOGE is bad. Why do you hate the children? What's your position on the debt? Come on, dude. I'm talking about DOGE cuts and how they're affecting Americans. We can obviously, I'm fine.
Yeah, so, hey, thanks so much for calling in.
We can change the topic.
Thanks so much for calling in.
Why isn't Trump going after the DOE? Why isn't Trump implemented the GOA cut?
Thanks so much for calling in. I appreciate it. Your time is up. You want to accuse me of running from you? You want to accuse me of running from you?
Knowing the GOA cut.
You want to accuse me of running from you and being a coward? You fucking little bitch. You underage fucking dick-sucking fucking loser. Accuse me when I'm going to hang out with my family of running from you? You fucking moronic piece of shit globalist socialist motherfucker. Oh, I just care about the firefighters. That's it. How dare you say that I don't care about burdening our children with debt? How dare you? All I want to do is help the firefighters. Then it takes quickly about 3 minutes for me to be like, oh, okay, so how would you reasonably solve the debt? Yeah, I don't give a shit about that. Yeah, go fuck yourself, you piece of shit. Don't you ever pretend that I'm running from you, you fucking piece of shit. What a fucking loser. Anyways, thanks so much. That's who these people are, just so you could see. I just have a problem with cutting the firefighter money. That's it. That dude doesn't want to cut in the debt. That is a socialist that wants big government spending. And what they'll constantly do, he'd make the same argument with immigration. Why did you kick this father out? He's a father. He's hardworking. He worked at a glass plant. Why would you kick him out? That's so terrible. It's incompetence. It's corrupt. It's so corrupt. Okay, we'll leave that guy and then we're okay. But what about this next guy? Oh, so you want to kick a bunch of people out? No, I don't want to kick anyone out.